Welcome back to Allied Bullies TV, and today we got one of the busiest. I'm not gonna say women in the dog game. I'm gonna say just a person, period, in the dog game. She one of the busiest in the dog game, man. She be doing everything. We got Mud Monster Bullies in the building.
How y'all doing today? I'm Michaela from Monster Bullies. My other half is Mez, but he's not here. He's usually helping with operations, maintenance, but I'm the brains of the operation. So
That's cool. What you got going on this Saturday?
traditional Saturday. I don't have to work today, so I'm just spending the day with my dogs. I already been up for a few hours. Everyone's gone outside. I've done the dog dishes. I've cleaned the poop up in the yard. Done the sanitize and all that good stuff. Um, so yeah, now I'm doing this interview. So
I wanted to ask you. You up there? You located up there in Toledo, Ohio, correct?
yes, sir.
What what is the American bully community like up there in Toledo, Ohio? Is it a lot of people up there, or
Um, in the XL community, it's kind of non-existent. There's a few XL breeders, just like within the vicinity, like in the Detroit and a couple in the Toledo that I know about. However, it's mainly exotics and I would say a couple pockets, but I've seen mainly exotics around here. So that's kind of what's big around here.
okay, yeah, that's typical for a lot of places right now. Being
Hmm.
exotic bullies and the smaller bullies. That's kind of a trend right now. So the
Yeah.
XL can kind of get pushed to the side a little bit.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, give us a little history on how long you've been around dogs. And what was your first actual introduction or interaction with dogs?
Okay. So I've probably been around dogs my entire life. I was about 3 years old when I remember my first interaction with a dog. And it was when my dad brought a dog into our apartment. I'm not even sure if we were allowed to have a dog, but he brought a dog into the apartment and I was playing with my toys and I just turned around because I was already waiting for him to get home. And I turned around, seen the dog in his arms, and I was just like, Two Tone, I haven't seen you in years. And I'm like, when I think back on it, I'm like, either I was reincarnated and this dog was reincarnated too, or I was just a weirdo kid and I was obsessed with 101 Dalmatians that much to where I just wanted a dog named Two Tone. I don't know. But basically, I've been exposed to dogs literally my entire life. So,
Okay. Um, you know, I see you doing so many things with and for your dogs. I can genuinely see the love and the passion that you got for your dogs. Um, where does that high level of love and passion come from?
hmm. Honestly, I would say that it just comes from me, like, genuinely loving my dogs. Like, I worked with many types of animals, bobcats, cougars, fish, um, accoutamundis, like wolves, anything that you can, sharks, anything that you name, I probably have worked with it. And nothing comes close to what a dog comes close to. Just the bond that you share with the dog. And honestly, back in 2018, I would say my dog saved my life, honestly. If it weren't for my dogs, I wouldn't even be here, 100%. So I guess it's that, it's the fact that they saved my dog saved my life. Why not give 110% back to the dog and the dogs after that have saved my life? Because who's to say that these future dogs won't save my life? You know what I mean?
Right,
So,
right.
and they can do it in many ways for many different people, whether that be like physically, mentally, anything. So 100% dogs saved my life, and I feel like that's where the passion mostly comes from.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I be seeing you on Instagram and I be watching how you interact with your dogs and the different things you be doing, and I could just tell like it's genuine and nothing staged just for I'm about to
Yeah.
make a video for Instagram. No, I could tell like you really care about them dogs and you really be putting a lot of love and
and I'm just
passion
and,
into
and
what you
I'm just
doing.
trying to be better every day for my dogs because honestly, like I'm gonna be 100% honest. Back in my college days when I was just getting into dogs, first pet owner, etc. I wasn't this strict. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't washing bowls every day and cleaning poop daily. You know what I mean? Yeah, you'd be lucky if I was cleaning poop weekly or monthly. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
you a fresh pet owner. You know what I'm saying? You learn as time goes on, and you learn as you get many different dogs and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think you learn with time.
that's cool though, man. I just want to applaud you and tell you, keep doing what you're doing. It's a lot of people
Appreciate
out there that's looking at your videos and seeing you, and I know you influencing them to do right by this breed and do right by dogs in general. Period.
and that's the goal.
Um, as I just mentioned, you busy every day doing various things from washing bowls, preparing meals, cleaning dog rooms, boarding dogs, pet transport, and so many more things. I'm pretty sure I left some things out. But let's dive a little bit into some of the things I see you doing and begin with the washing of the bowls. This is something, that all pet owners should be doing, but unfortunately they're not. Kind of break down for the viewers the importance of washing the bowls and also the negative side effects of not washing their pets' bowls.
Okay. So again, as forementioned, I wasn't a pet owner originally that was like, oh, let me wash my bowls every day. Like, this
Right.
is something important. Now that I know what I know, I wash them every day and multiple times a day. Every time they get fresh water, I'm washing their bowls. Because one at the end of the day, like we don't eat off dirty dishes. Like even if we go to get a drink, you know what I'm saying? Like we're probably getting a new cup or we're rinsing out the one that we had if it's clean enough. So with that being said, I was just like, maybe I should do a little bit better for my dogs. And I realized that the bacteria that collects in bowls, it's like so that you'll get like a saliva film. A lot of people will feel it or see it in the water or whatever. If you don't wash that out, basically a lot of bacteria, harmful bacteria for your dog, will collect in that bowl over time. It can get worse. It can become, your dog can get sick, diarrhea, the gut health, anything like that can be thrown off. So that's why it's super important to wash the bowls. I personally feed raw. It's super important to wash and sanitize after, especially after raw food. Like kibble is one thing, but like raw food is it's not negotiable. You have to wash the bowls because otherwise raw food after a certain time of being exposed to a temperature that it's not supposed to, it becomes very harmful bacteria. So again, even when I see people doing raw prep, I'm like, some people aren't doing it right because again, like you have to keep this food on ice, cool, different things like that because this food has to stay at a safe temperature. I've also worked in a restaurant for since I was like 16. So like I know all this food safety stuff. So again, that's another important thing. If you're doing raw, you definitely have to wash your bowls because again, you'll get E. coli, different harmful bacteria, in those bowls if you don't wash them. Um, and another thing to note why I wash the bowls is, because so there's a couple different bowl options. Now, I used to use the plastic, and the plastic they'll chew it up and you'll get the like the remnants kind of,
Right.
yeah, you can't really get in, you can't get in there, you can't scrub it
Right,
or anything
right,
like
right.
that.
It's the little crevices and cracks that get
Exactly. Once
created
they
from
start
chewing on the
chewing it
bowl.
up, and it's like it's okay, it's a functional bowl, they can use it. um Another thing, that's another thing, you really have to wash those type of bowls. I usually will, I have a couple of those outside, but I stopped really using them, and I got the big stainless steel at the Tractor Supply.
Right.
They're like I don't know, they hold a bunch of water, I don't know, they're like $16. But I got the big ones at Tractor Supply, or maybe they're 32, maybe the bigger ones, I don't know, I'm sorry, can't remember, too long ago. But I got those to wash out as well. But again, it's just, long story short, stainless steel bowls, the ceramic, they hold bacteria. The plastic, they hold bacteria. Um, and if you have the plastic or the ceramic, you should really be washing twice as much as stainless steel, to be honest. And really, I would recommend against it. I do have a highlight on my story, on one of my stories on my page, that literally highlights all the information. I think it's under helpful information, but it literally talks about washing bowls and the benefits and everything like that. So
All right, yeah, I had to bring that up. You kind of like famous. You kind of like famous out here
wash your bowls,
for watching balls. No, for real though. You kind of
wash your
famous for that
bowls.
though. But that's a good thing though. You bringing awareness to the community for us, like the cleanliness of these bowls. A lot of people take that stuff for granted. Like you said, it's lots of bacteria, like even like Giardia, like you said about like the saliva and stuff like that. That's where that Giardia and
Yep,
stuff
the
actually
poop
be
getting
getting
in the
created in.
water. And
Yeah. So
actually, when I volunteered for a wildcat sanctuary, because like I said, I got you know animal care in different fields. Um, the ODNR, which is the Ohio Division of Wildlife or whatever, they actually had to come and make sure that the water bowls for these bobcats, cougars, like all these, like the foxes, everything they were making sure that we were washing their bowls. So like I was going into these pens, grabbing water bowls, servals growling at me. I'm like, oh my god, am I gonna lose my hand today? Like using a broom trying to scoop the water bowl toward me just to wash it. But yeah, it's like when you're like a licensed kennel, that's something they're gonna look for is washed bowls. So, and bowls that are maintained, not you know bowls that are all
Right,
chewed
right.
up and stuff like that. So.
As you just mentioned, you feed your dogs raw. I want to touch on that, as far as like the meal prep and things like that. How long have you been feeding a raw diet to your dogs?
So the current dogs I have now, I actually haven't been feeding them very long, on raw, probably since March, officially. Beforehand, I would do raw toppers here and there. A couple years ago, my friend's dad shot a deer for us, and we got it processed, and we fed the dogs that with their kibble. So again, I've done raw before. The previous dogs that I've had in the past that have passed away, I've done again raw toppers with them, but I've never done fully raw because I was just like, it's just so expensive. So once I actually switched in March, it was because I had watched a documentary on, I think it was on Netflix at the time. It could be on Amazon Prime now. I think it's on YouTube now, but it's called Pet Full. And it's about basically where, how they make kibble, how it's made, where they get the meat from in the kibble, etc. And even what I um, what I learned in that documentary is where they get the meat from is basically sometimes like farmers will have like dead cows and sheep or whatever that just die out of nowhere and stuff like that, and they'll just put them at the end of the road, and like sometimes it's there for months, sometimes in the summer months, sometimes in the winter months, like they just put it at the end of the road, and these pet companies come by on the trucks and they just pick the bodies up. So that's why they have to, and sometimes it's roadkill that gets exported to the factory and stuff like that. So like none of this meat is sourced. That's why you get like a lot of meat meal because it's a lot of just like stuff thrown in there. It's like just parts. So anytime you see really meat meal on a kibble bag as first ingredients, and that's super trash food. They try
Right.
either way. Kibble is kibble. McDonald's is McDonald's, whether it's Arizona prices or Ohio prices. You get what I'm saying? So it doesn't really matter. Process is processed, but we stopped feeding the kibble pretty much after that. Actually, I lied. We switched to a higher grade kibble. We thought between Open Farm and Signature, and then we chose Signature because they were doing well on that. Open Farm is supposed to be a kibble where it's supposed to be like sourced and you can like track the lot number and whatever. But I've been in some Facebook groups that have said like they've had some of their pets have had problems on it. So I just chose Signature. But it was $80 a bag, and I was getting like 2 bags a week, which is $160 a week. So at that point, I started doing the math, and I'm like, I can spend $20 more a week and get my dogs some real food, some good food, something that they're gonna look good on, and it was way better than the kibble. I'm not gonna lie. From We went from 4 Health to Signature, and it was a big change in difference, like skin issues, fur, poop, stuff like that. But when we went from the kibble period to raw, it was amazing. Skin issues start clearing up, and I literally didn't do anything other than just feed them the raw. Their skin is shiny as hell. They shed way less. Breaths doesn't really stink like that. The poop's smaller. The poop don't smell. Um, I don't know. It's so many. The muscles pop way more without and it's not that the raw adds mass. I don't want anybody to get that confused. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna just give a dog that don't got no muscle no muscle.
Right.
It's the raw is gonna bring out the genetics,
Right. Right.
because
Right.
it's
Right.
gonna the kibble what the kibble is doing is adding that fat. And what they don't, it's like I said, it's like eating McDonald's every day.
That's
Y'all know that documentary where the dude ate the McDonald's for 30, 60 days or whatever it was when we was kids. He got fat. So dogs eating a whole bunch of kibble and maybe, some raw too. They just getting extra calories and just eating, and they fat. The raw is gonna bring out the genetics. So when my dogs start eating raw, really they start dropping, not really dropping weight, but dropping fat, I should say, and gaining more muscle. But yeah, those are some of the benefits of the raw. That's why we stopped feeding the kibble and went to raw. Um, and yeah, honestly, just the poop alone, the poop size alone, and the smell, I would go to raw. And we only spend. So I was going to the grocery stores at first, and then I found a local farmer, so I would also suggest like reaching out to them. And I only spend, I think when I meal prep, I spend about 2 to 250 for 6 dogs, and that'll give me 11 days of food. So multiply that by about 2.5 for if I want to feed for a full 31 days, and it's only about 500 for the month. So not really spending a whole lot. In hindsight, obviously if you have smaller dogs or one dog, is going to be way cheaper, because I think, like I said, I fed 6 dogs for 11 days. That's 66 meals. That's 2 months for somebody with one dog that's feeding once a day, and I'm feeding about 2 pounds per dog a day.
yeah. Up here in Cleveland, we have it's called Cleveland Bully Link. We have an actual group chat on Instagram, and
Okay.
they be in there, discussing like feeding raw and not feeding raw, and some people be saying they feed it, some people be saying they don't, and so maybe they could see this interview and get a little bit of insight on raw.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for the people out there that has never fed raw but are thinking about switching to a raw diet, what are some of the foods that you would suggest for them to feed their dogs, to ensure they're getting the proper nutrition? Because that's the thing I heard people say in the group chat for is like, I would feed raw, but I'm just not quite sure what to feed. I want to make sure my dogs are still getting what they need to get.
Right, right. So the rule of thumb for raw is a 80-10-10 diet. And it's basically 80% protein, 10% bone, and 5% liver and 5% other organ. So with that being said, you never want to go over these thresholds, especially like on the organ, because you can think you're giving your dog more, taurine or whatever if you give them, some more hearts and you think that's good for them. But then all of a sudden they poop and it's like super runny and it's dark and it's black. So at that point you're like, oh, you got to reevaluate. You gave too much organ because you also have to think about it. A dog in the wild that's eating on some prey isn't going to have that much organ to eat. You know what I mean? You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So, and they're probably, and a dog in the wild is probably going to be feeding on that said animal maybe for a couple days. With that being said, you have to follow that 80-10-10. Now, also, you have to consider each dog is different. Okay, what works for my dog may not work for your dog. What works for one of my dogs may not work for another one of my dogs. And that is the case. Um, Especially if your dog has like special needs or anything like that. One of my dogs only has 1 foot of intestines. So like I have to 100% give her way less organ or her poop will be running. So again, every dog is different. You just have to adjust and try different things. But the number one thing that I would suggest when trying raw and what you should try is try one protein at a time. Um, if you try to get to doing this, that, and a third, and trying to try fish and beef and turkey and everything at the same time, you won't know what your dog doesn't like or I should say doesn't do well on. Because if they have some diarrhea or something and you did the exact 80-10-10, you're like, oh, and you just switch it around a little bit and you can't figure out why this dog is still having diarrhea, well, you also didn't do singular protein at a time. So when I started off raw, we personally started off beef because I knew the dogs liked beef. I knew. I also thought that they wouldn't do well on chicken because they didn't really do well on the chicken kibble. Okay. So I started with beef. After I realized we did well with beef, I was like, okay, well let's add a little bit of fish. After I realized they did well on adding some fish in, I went ahead and added some turkey. So basically, I was just seeing what worked and what didn't work. I realized that when I added chicken, because I was buying a bunch of chicken quarters or whatever, when I had chicken with this, like it was, I don't know, it was skinless, I think, but like I could still peel. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, I peeled something off the skin layer off, and they they did well on it. But when the skin layer was on, they had diarrhea. So again, maybe it was too much fat for them, etc. I don't know, but what I did was peeled it off, and they were fine. Now I don't even get like chicken quarters and stuff like that from like Costco and Walmart and all that. I go to the farm, so I don't really have to deal with that. But at that problem, when I was dealing with that problem with the grocery stores, that's what I was doing. I also recommended that to someone else, and they said their dog ended up doing fine on it too because their dog was having diarrhea. And I was like, well, try taking the skin part off or whatever. So basically, just try one protein at a time. Everything, may not work for your dog, may not work for both of your dogs. Some of your dogs aren't going to like some of the things that some of your other dogs like. Like, for example, one of my dogs will eat anything. My other dog, Valkyrie, she won't touch a mussel if it's not frozen. If it's frozen, she don't care because I guess it's a texture thing. I don't know, but if it's thawed out, she ain't touching it.
Yeah, what you just said as far as like streamlining your dog's diet down to kind of like figure out what they like to eat, you know, that could hold true because like me, I'm vegan now, but before when I wasn't, I was trying to you know, I was trying to see what my body liked and what my body didn't like. So
Hmm.
at one point in time, what I had did was I had actually streamlined my diet down to just chicken breast and some brown rice for a week. And
Hmm.
then after that, I seen how my body would act. And then I say, okay, let me add this in and see how my body act to this now that I'm adding this in. And if I get a certain reaction, maybe
Yep.
bathroom scheduling ain't right or
Yep.
stomach or anything or skin feeling funny or I know that okay that particular food I don't really need it in my diet. So
And you probably notice that when you eat better, you probably poop less, as well as your poop doesn't smell as bad, right?
for sure,
Same with
for sure.
dogs.
Yep, for
We're
sure.
just like dog. We're more than more like dogs than we think.
Exactly. I think, if people taking the time to, learn themselves and the same thing that you applying to yourself, you can apply those same principles somewhat to the dogs as well.
Yep.
Um, I noticed, like I said, you be doing various things like, boarding dogs and things like that. I had noticed that, you utilize a platform called Rover. Is that
Hmm.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Explain what that platform is and how you came across that platform and also explain the services that you offer on that platform.
Okay, perfect. So I think I came across Rover back in 2017.
Okay.
And that's because I had just bought a new car and I was trying to find different hustles.
Right, right.
Rover is basically a dog app. It's almost like a Uber for dogs.
Okay.
Um, you can board, you can walk dogs, house sit overnight, whatever. We personally board in our own home. That's the service that we offer at the moment. We don't do any offering of walking dogs or anything like that outside of our home because it's just easy to board dogs because we're already here taking care of our dogs. So it's not nothing to just take care of a few more dogs. So that's all. That's
Right.
what those are the services we offer. It's just the boarding. We would do the walking and everything, but that's just another thing to do. And you already know I'm
Right.
busy,
Right, 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 right.
especially if I got to go to someone's house and they live. I don't. Yeah, no. I
How is
need.
it? I'm gonna ask you. Boarding other people's dogs. I know that could become challenging.
Mhm.
What are some of the challenges, or situations that you could speak of, far as boarding dogs, maybe a story or two you might want to share, something that might have went wrong or something didn't go the way it was supposed to go while boarding these dogs.
So, one recent story, we had a client, and the dog was great. Okay, this is not a horror story about the dog. It's more so a horror story, and it's really not even that bad because I've heard worse about the client because we boarded the dog. The dog was doing great. I was sending updates every day, multiple times a day. We went on walks. The dog was fantastic. I can't speak highly enough about the dog. Okay, because usually dogs is bad, okay? It's not many dogs on Rover that are good. Let me tell you.
You said most of the dogs on Rover is bad.
They bad, okay? I
Far
already
as like
think I already think all dogs is bad anyways.
far as untrained.
Yes, yes. Um, and just untrained, hyper, because they're used to, letting their pet owners do whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? Like every dog, I can't tell you that comes in my room, they just dart on my bed, and I'm like, whoa, 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 we don't do that here. You can get on the couch upstairs. We got two
Right,
couches
right,
for you, buddy, but not on my bed. Hop up off.
right, right.
So, some of the dogs, it's just like, whoa, and they get a check too, because they're like, whoa, like I can do whatever I want at home. And it's just like, no, no, you can do certain things here. We have structure around here. But back on the story. The client basically, the day he was supposed to pick him up, he was supposed to pick him up between 10 and 11 p.m. Well, what happened was I was, communicating. Now, the other days he was communicating back. This day, the last day, he was not communicating. Okay, I was sending updates multiple times, nothing back. 10 o'clock comes around, we don't hear nothing. 11 o'clock comes around. I'm like, does he think he's about to pick up this dog after 11? Like, first of all, I'm tired. I'm tired. Number one. Number two, this dog done ran out of food. And at this point, now I have to feed him what we have here. And of course, he's going to have diarrhea. And he did. So I had to clean that up. But he, we contacted him and we said, hey, it's past 11 o'clock. We're just going to go ahead and have to charge you for another day because, there's been no communication. And, at this point, it's too late to pick him up. And, he said he was fine with that. He agreed to it, whatever. And then he was like, I had an emergency. And it's just like, well, when were you going to tell us? Like, we have your kid here. Like, this is essentially your kid. Like, I know you think that he's in great hands, but like, what if I had something to do?
Right.
Like, where if I had somewhere to go? Like, your kid's going to be here now because you didn't communicate all day. Like nothing. So that's one little story you kind of have to deal with. And honestly, it's our fault because we read his reviews on Rover. You're allowed to leave reviews on the dogs and the clients. And one of his reviews from another boarder said that he doesn't respect the boarder's time, and he'll don't book him. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't respect the time.
Right.
So it was our fault because we read the review and we still was like, oh, it's okay. We were just trying, trying to get some money. We were thinking it'd be okay, and then he tried to book again, and we were like, no, because we're not getting stuck.
Hey,
So
we gonna get back to the Rover topic, but you had said something just now about dogs having diarrhea. I
mhm.
had saw you cleaning that dog room before. I, Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was you who was cleaning that dog room, and it was like poop on the walls over here from dogs having diarrhea and things like that.
Yep.
Um, kind of, for people out here, man, they think like, having these dogs is an easy job and an easy task. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that can occur, and you got to get in there and get your hands dirty and start cleaning, doo doo off of walls and off of the floor and things like that. Um, how often, that dog room you got? How often is that? How often do you clean up there in that room?
I have to clean it minimum twice a week and a deep clean once a week. Otherwise, if I don't, it's a wrap. It's a
Right,
wrap.
right,
And that's not like me cleaning up poop or anything like that. That's just like dog hair, dirt, sand.
right, right,
That's
right.
and honestly, if I had the energy to clean it daily, I would do it. But no,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't.
yeah. Nah, I just
I
wanted to
don't.
touch on that because I had saw that
I
one
don't.
time.
Sometimes I've tried before. I've tried to do like a spot, just like a spot, like real quick, and I'm like, this is too much. I'm like, I'm just gonna do it every other, a couple times a week, and then do a thorough deep clean, and
Yeah,
leave it at that.
people don't understand, what goes into taking care of these dogs. They just look at it, far as like money. Like, all right, I could get these dogs, I could put two
Mhm.
together, I can make this money, and I can.
Mhm.
But it's a job. It's a
But and
job.
a lot of those people, have it easy because a lot of them are skating by doing the bare minimum. Let's be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like some of them don't even have their dogs trained. A lot of them are outside. A lot of them are on the drop crates. So I mean, some of them are skating by and making it easy, but it's not. When you're doing it right, it's not.
right, right, right. Let's get back to the Rover platform. For anyone watching this video and wanted to get started on Rover, explain the sign up process and things that would need to be done, to begin utilizing Rover's platform.
So when you sign up for Rover, you basically give them your information. They do a background check, so you have to pass a background check. And then as you're waiting for your background check to clear, you basically fill out your profile, the experience you have, about your dogs, if you have any dogs, about yourself, different things like that on the profile, pictures. Um, and then, yeah, after you get approved for your background, you just post and you name your prices for each services that you offer, and people start to book you. That's basically how it works. I used Rover as because I needed a dog sitter before I ever actually was a dog sitter on the app.
Right.
So I liked it because it was easy. I didn't have to worry about taking, worry. I just didn't have to worry about different things like dog fights at the, boarding facilities. It was just more private, I feel like. I know that a lot of people have had different horror stories on Rover and stuff, I guess. I haven't heard a lot, but I guess other people have, about like dogs, like, dying and stuff like that. But honestly, I've had a dog die in my friend's care. So
Right.
I
Right.
guess it's like anything. If you don't check the reviews, the price is the price. You get what you pay for. Sometimes just because the price is high doesn't mean it's quality. Still read the reviews. Um, and yeah, I think we started off at like when we were in Arizona for like $40. Rover does take a cut, so keep that in mind. And then now I think on Rover we raised our rate to like $60. And Arizona, $60, that's probably like not bad at all. But for like a Toledo area, $60, like that's expensive. Like Toledo is like cheap.
So it's like it's $60 what
Per night, per night, per dog.
per day. Okay, cool. Okay,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
So
I think like the median around here is like 40, 50, somewhere around there.
per night. That
Yep.
ain't bad. That ain't bad though.
No.
Do you have any tips for a first time user, somebody that's thinking about getting on the platform and thinking about maybe doing board or maybe walking some dogs to make some extra money on the side? Do you have any tips for them or advice?
Um, on your profile, just put as much information as you can, about yourself, about your experience, as many photos as you can with other different types of dogs. The breeds, different breeds is very important because people with huskies are going to look for people with huskies on their profile. People with bullies, pit bulls are going to look for bullies and pit bulls on their profile. So like that's how we get like a various type of customers because we have like we've dog sat those type of dogs. We've dog sat schnauzers, we've dog sat chihuahua, like we've dog sat all these types, and where people see that and they're like, oh, okay, well they're comfortable with dog sitting a Frenchie. Like Frenchie people, they're not. If you don't got no Frenchie on your profile, you think they about to book you? No, because they know Frenchies is high maintenance, and they know, you know what I mean. Like we know even heat stroke. You know what I mean. So again, like I would say, having a bunch of different breeds on your page, as much information on your page about you and your experience as possible. You can start out as at a low rate. That way, you can get more clients. Obviously, beware that you'll get some clients that aren't so good starting at a lower rate, but you got to start somewhere. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to start high and have no reviews because you still won't get booked for real. You might every once in a while, but a lot of people, you won't get a lot of bookings like that. Um, and I think what's one more I can give them? Mm, Once you get the bookings, I think really honestly how we maintain them is I keep in good communication with the owner. Like I'm annoying. I'm annoying with it. It's honestly like I wouldn't personally want it. I'm just like, okay, just give me like one or two updates of my dog and let me know I'm okay. I'm on vacation, but like I'm sending like photos like 3, 4, 5 times a day. Like, oh, we went on a walk. Oh, we just went outside to play, or he just ate, or I'm giving them day by day by day. The more communication, the better, because at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, there was even one time I was like, oh, the dogs are doing great, and then like an hour later. I was like, yeah, your dog just made me chase him down the street. And I sent them the video because I'm like, I want you to know this, because if something happens, like, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise here. So it's just super important to communicate, and I think that's why we get a lot of return bookings as well. Like, they return like, my dog loves it here, and I'm like, does he? Because he bad as hell. I wish he didn't love it here. But yeah, I think we get a lot of return customers because we communicate the way we do with them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in this day and time, more communication probably would be better to, ensure, you know, people when things go wrong sometimes, and they could go wrong after the fact that the dog left you or something like that, or this, that, and the third. People tend to try to point the finger back on somebody else instead of really looking at what the problem really is. So I
Yep.
think, communicating and sending pictures and videos, like you said, that's a good
Like,
thing.
even if the dog pees in the crate, I'm letting you know, hey, your dog peed in the cage, pooped in the
Right.
cage,
You can't,
any diarrhea, your dog got diarrhea. I'm letting them know everything.
yeah, I don't think you could overdo it when it comes to that, though. Um, I had noticed, you had transported the dog for Ben up here in Cleveland,
Mhm.
beneficial
Yep.
bullies. I
Yep.
had actually I had actually reached out to him in the DM. I was like, that's your dog, Mud Monster Bullies got, and because he hadn't announced it to nobody, but I knew he was getting a female dog, and I'm looking like. I think you had said it was going to Cleveland, so I had DM'd him, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, yeah, that's my dog." He was like, "Don't say nothing to nobody yet." But how did the how did the pet transport, side of things kind of develop for you? How did you begin to get into that?
A couple years back, I got interested in it because I had an ex, and that's basically how I got my first two dogs. Basically, um, I had benefits on a United for United or whatever, because he worked for United, and I got free flights or whatever. So he booked me on a flight to California so I could go buy my Frenchie. I went out there and bought my Frenchie and brought him back. Now, this was when emotional support letters was the shit, because you could just get a dog on the plane with an emotional support letter. Now they don't count. It has to be like a full service dog. A lot of people, too many people caught on. I didn't have to pay nothing to get him from California back home. And then 2 months later, I bought my boy Cairo, who was a bully, and I bought him in Texas. So I flew out to Texas to get him. And at that point, I was like, oh, like I can kind of, probably do this, and get some money for this. Now, I never started then. And then me and that ex broke up or whatever, maybe even not even a year later. So that was that. Um, but when I stayed involved in the dog community because I had those dogs, I was involved with a breeder who had a few issues with a few transporters. One of those issues being, but basically he told me the transporter, um, they were going coast to coast. Wherever they were at, they were like somewhere in Montana, I believe. They left a van full of animals in the parking lot while they slept in the hotel room. Animal control was called on them. They seized all the animals, and there were multiple dogs from multiple breeders in Cali that didn't know where their dogs were at all. Um, Nobody was answering their phone. Nobody was returning calls. None of that. They finally got a hold of somebody who knew where the dogs were, and it was all the way in Montana. And I know personally that breeder had to drive all the way to Montana, get that puppy, And then after he got the puppy, he had brought a dog with him on the trip just to accompany him. Well, that dog brought Parvo back into his yard. So all of that happened just because of a bad transport. Now, obviously, the Parvo situation could have obviously been possibly avoided, whatever. That's besides the point. But it would have never happened if the puppy wasn't in the pound and he had to go away to Montana. I've also heard horror stories where Incredibles in Texas, she shares all the time how one of her puppies died in the care of, I don't remember the lady's name honestly, but died in her care, not even 24 hours of her about to transport the dog, and yeah, and lied about it basically. And she's killed multiple dogs apparently. So I've heard multiple horror stories, and that's basically kind of why I wanted to get into transporting because one, I tell everybody, and this ain't a lie, I probably care about your dog more than you care about it yourself. Because at the end of the day, like I'm just a true animal lover. Like I can talk to you all day long, but like if your dog comes sit next to me, I'm gonna be up your dog's ass more than you. I'm not even gonna lie. Like that's just the type of person. We go to a dog show, a cookout, or anything like that. If there's a dog there, the dog gonna be with me. Okay. But yeah. So um, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Back up. Help me.
Now you was mentioning, about how you got into the pet transport for us,
Yes.
like,
So with the
people
transporting.
people not doing
Um,
people not doing what they need to do.
Yes. So the first my first transport, that's what I was gonna say. Now my first transport was after the guy who did the whole parvo thing or whatever. That was my first transport. He trusted me to transport. I grabbed two dogs from Texas, drove all the way to Texas, and I drove all the way to Cali. I did 18 hours to Texas and then 18 hours to Arizona, and then I had 5 hours to Cali and then 5 hours back from Cali. And I did that in like 2, 3 days. So my goal always for the transport was one for communication. Two was to get there fast and again be communicating the whole entire time, because a lot of people again on that transport, nobody knew where their dog was. Like how do you lose your dog somewhere across the country? I just don't understand. And honestly, another thing I don't understand is how it takes so much time for, I mean, I guess you're picking up multiple destinations, multiple dogs, but it doesn't take me no time to get across the country. So again, like you want speed, you want quality, you want your dog safe, you want your dog clean when it arrives. You already know who to book. But that's another thing. I strive on having the dogs clean. Like if I smell pee or poop while I'm driving, and you smell it right away, it that's that stuff wakes you up out your sleep. I stop immediately. Like I literally immediately pull over. I have Kennesaw spray. I have paper towels. I have towels, um, dog wipes, the whole 9 yards to clean up the dog, to clean up the kennel, everything like that. And then I'll obviously let the dog go to the bathroom outside because I'm sure it has to go. And if it doesn't, then we'll just continue on the ride. But I always make sure to stop. But yeah, I mean, honestly, getting into the transport, it was because I realized all these transporters out here weren't doing everything that I was gonna do, and I didn't trust nobody to transport my own dog. So I'm like, guess I better just start transporting. And like I said, that was my first transport. The one guy from Texas to Cali. And from then on, I've been getting a couple transports here and there. Every year, I'll get a little bit more, like a little bit more. I'm not like full on doing like 40, 50 transports a year or anything like that, which is cool. But every year I'm getting more and more transports and inquiries and stuff like that. So
What are some things that you could let the viewers know, things that they can do to make it easier for people like yourself that's transporting these dogs and getting these dogs to where they need to be?
to make it easier,
Yeah.
um, Be prepared. I always, like I said, like I have right now my back seats. I mean, obviously, you can have a bag or something like in the trunk or whatever, but my back seats literally have paper towels in them and like the spray bottle, like and a leash, an extra leash. Like I always keep everything in a place prepared. The kennels, when they come out from a transport, I clean them right away. That way, when I get a transport booked, I can just hurry up, spray it down. It ain't like oh, I got to deep clean something or something like that. It's already clean, so I just gotta wipe the dust off. Um, be prepared. Have communication with both parties. Very, very important. I've had I've been in communication with both parties and sometimes shit still goes left. So, with that being said, have communication with both parties and make sure that you are able to take the dog when it is time to come pick up. Because there was one time I picked up for somebody in Cleveland and they paid me because I take my payment up front, period. Then they didn't pay the breeder in Oklahoma. I drove 10 hours to Oklahoma. Why am I waiting 2 hours for you to send this payment to this breeder when I've been telling you I'm 8 hours out, 5 hours out, 4 hours out, 3 hours out, 2 hours out, a half hour out. Better tell you. I'm on it. 30 minutes out, 5 minutes out. Like I'll tell you where I'm at. And I got everybody in a group chat.
Right, right,
Everybody's
right.
in the group chat because I'm gonna notify you at the same time. I ain't got time to be texting three different people trying to find a phone number and then forgetting to text somebody that I'm here. No, we all in a group chat. Establish the group chat. That's a tip. But yeah, make sure that the payment, the dog is good to go when you're there. When before you even get there, like, am I allowed to take this dog? Because I had to basically convince the breeder, like, look, if he don't send you your payment, like, I'll bring this dog back to you. Just, I mean, you have to pay, but I will bring it back to you. I'm not gonna give him the dog without him sending payment. So then it's just a lot to deal with. Sometimes I go above and beyond for my clientele because that's just how I am. Like I said, I've been in the restaurant industry. Customer service is number one for me. And obviously to keep clientele. But sometimes, like, you'll deal with that. I know another transporter that dealt with the same thing. Like, somebody, she was about to transport a dog, but they were like, oh, well, they hadn't paid yet. She's like, well, I'm about to be here with this dog, so is it gonna fly or is it not? So again, like, make sure I would ask, both parties, is the dog cleared to leave, and communicate with all parties, put them in a group chat. That's honestly probably the most important thing.
Okay, you spoke on some of the tips, things that you can do to make it easier, but also what are some of the things that the customer who's utilizing your transport services, what can they do to make the streamlining and make everything go a little bit more easier? What can the customer do?
Honestly, just make sure obviously the dog is paid for. Because if the dog's not paid for or anything like that, obviously make sure customer needs to make sure that the dog is bathed, the nails are trimmed. Honestly, I'm the type of transporter, if you forget, because I know I'm a breeder and I've forgotten to trim a puppy's nails or two. And I'm like, shit, I forgot to clean the ears or did this. Like, I have all that on hand. So I personally, especially if it looks real bad, I'm gonna do it because I don't want a puppy arriving, whatever. But obviously, bathing the dog before the transport, not feeding the dog before the transport so it doesn't go to the bathroom so we can avoid any accidents and it getting messy after the bath. Um, those are probably the big three. Not feeding, cleaning the dog, making sure it's good. Oh, vaccination records. And then I'd probably send it with like a bag of food and that it's already on just so it can transition to whatever it's going to or stay on. But that'll be easy for the receiving parent. And then also like a blanket of some kind with the smell of its pack or mom or something like that because it'll help them feel comfortable and it'll also help them adjust in their new environmental setting.
Okay, for somebody who was thinking about, utilizing your services for pet transport, what areas do you cover And also, if you can disclose any of your pricing,
Yeah.
what's the pricing?
Yeah. So I cover the whole United States. If you need me to go anywhere, I'll go. You gotta pay the price though. That's the only thing.
Right.
My pricing, so right now, I can do so plane flight pricing and by car is gonna be a little different. Okay. By car is gonna be I charge a flat rate of unless there's tolls because I'm adding on the price of the tolls. 51 cent per mile. That's it. From my house in Toledo, if you can go ahead and route the transport yourself. You go to Toledo, Ohio, to wherever I'm going to pick up the dog, put in your GPS, and then back to wherever I'm dropping off the dog at. Back to Toledo, Ohio. Now, again, you just add up all that mileage, multiply it by 51 cent, and boom, you got your total price of the transport. Now, if there is a transport along that route, it will make it cheaper for you because I will split it for split it in cost of the dog that's, wherever that mileage, the mileage difference. So again, 51 cent for the mile for the car. And then for flight pricing, basically how I map it out is 150 base fee for me to go to the airport and everything like that and drive and stuff like that. 125 for it's up to 125. Sometimes it's 99 because it depends on the airline for the pet fee. But there's a pet fee that you have to pay to put a carrier under the seat, and it's usually between 1 and 125. So I just say 125 for, max or whatever. 125 for the pet fee plus the flight price. So again, if the flight's farther out, it won't cost as much for you because I don't got no flight benefits. I know some of these flight nannies got flight benefits and they can just charge you 500 every single time. I'm going based off the fluctuations of the price. Obviously, it won't fluctuate much after you get the flight price because you got the base price of the 150, 100 per day that I'm in the airport after that. Um, and then as well as flight price base and the pet fee. So those are basically how my prices are going. If you did want to book, you can just go to the website. Again, because I've run into so many problems, I have you fill out the address of where I'm going, the address of where I'm picking the dog up, the contact name of the person that I'm picking up from, like all this information because I want to make sure that I can contact both of y'all and make sure that I'm actually able to pick up the dog because, like I said, the one time I was literally waiting in Oklahoma for 2 hours after I had drove 10 hours. I'm like, damn, I'm about to get a hotel at this point. Like, like
You
what is going
mentioned
on?
you said they could fill that out on the website.
Yes, we got a
What's the
website, mudmonsterbullies.com.
All right, yeah, I want to make sure that get out there for people that may see
Sir,
this video and want to book.
mudmonsterbullies.com.
Y'all heard it, mudmonsterbullies.com. Um, you do so much stuff. Once again, I didn't see you doing. I saw you doing weight pulling, right? Uh, what was that experience like for you and your dogs? Doing weight pulling for the first time. How was it for
Um,
you and your dogs?
I think my dogs. I'm. I can't really speak for my dogs. I think they liked it, but I think they were kind of like what are you trying to make me do here? Because they didn't really get it. But I loved it. I had fun. I want to say the dogs had fun because I had so much fun. And I just love when my dogs get out and work and stuff like that. So I had a really good time. I loved it for my first time. It was a little the atmosphere was a little weird kind of going in. No one was really like talking to me. It was kind of like these older white ladies or whatever. By the end of it, everybody was cool and talking to me or whatever and stuff like that. But it's kind of like they waiting to see how your dog perform or something. I don't know, but yeah, it was a nice environment. The ladies were helpful and stuff like that, and yeah, it was good. I liked it a lot. Definitely, and we got one coming up in September. Oh well, the Memorial Day weekend. So,
You
um,
going? You
yeah,
going
we're
out there?
definitely. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's actually hosted in Toledo, so I don't have to like drive nowhere far. Last time was about an hour away, so I only got to take two dogs. So, it's in the city this time, so I can take all the dogs.
All right, I had, I saw where you said on the Instagram post that Megan Mills from Mount Ruckus Kennels had given you some tips on how to train your dog for weight pull. Can you reveal any of the tips she gave you?
I can reveal some tips that she gave me. Y'all gonna have to hit me up in the DM because I word for word, I can't give you word for word. But some of the tips that I can expose, she did tell me to keep the dog novice until they get, what I'm trying to get them to do. Novice means keeping them on a leash. So when you're competing, you can do novice, which doesn't count for points or anything like that, or you can do, regular. I don't know if it's necessarily called regular, so don't quote me on that. But you can do the regular, version of it, and that's no leash. You can't touch the dog, nothing like that. Now, if the dog doesn't move or anything like that, you can then put a leash on it, and at that point, for that weight, it will be considered novice. Now she did tell me one tip. She did say keep him novice for like I think it was like almost for a year until he actually gets it for a whole season or whatever. Because then with you guiding him with the lead, he'll know exactly what to expect when you take him off the lead, right? So that was one thing that I'm glad she gave me a tip on before I started my next weight pull event, because now like when I go in, even though like I want the points and the points are cool and stuff like that, I'd rather have my dog novice and know what he's doing every single pull and know what to expect than to kind of know what to expect and just kind of do it and then not do it when he doesn't want to do it. So that was one of the tips that she gave me. Another one was to obviously I need to get a weight pull harness made custom to his size and measurements, and then get some chain and window weights. She said, don't do the tire, don't do the sled, don't do none of that. Get the chain and the window weights. And she said, basically, you start off with the chain and you start adding on like the little window weights. She said you can get them on Facebook Marketplace. I found some on Facebook Marketplace, and you just add on a couple on each side, and then you can add on a couple window weights to another chain and have that as an add-on, and then but she said don't add too much weight at a time. Obviously, like, make sure he's working, use the leash on the harness to help him pull sometimes or pull through, but always end on a positive note. But yeah, those are some of the tips that she gave me. If you want the actual tips, like I said, I could screenshot them for you, send it word for word. But yeah, those are some of the
Right,
tips that
right.
she gave me.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to get her on the show actually, because I see she being like the sporting
Yeah,
kind of thing with the dogs.
from what I know of her, she's awesome. She's dope. Like honestly, she's one of the breeders that has inspired me to do more with my dogs and for my dogs. There's a couple breeders, she's one of them. Another one is Rome Bullies. Like she definitely inspired me on like my style of posting, like posting everyday life with my dogs. She doesn't post as much anymore cuz she doesn't really like being on social media. She just needs breaks a lot, I guess. But like she literally inspired me to do that same posting, because when I seen that, I'm like, damn, like you can really see that she loves her dogs. Like she cares for her dogs. So that's kind of how where I got my a little bit of my style from, as well as like Mount Ruckus Kennels, like, inspiration for, wanting to do the sports and the health testing and stuff like that. Cause she's also helped me with learning with some of the health testing as well.
Okay, before we move forward, I want to ask you. I had asked another female breeder I had on here before. Do you think female breeders get the flowers they deserve in our community? Do you think they get the respect, that's due to them?
I think that you get what you put in. I think females have to work harder than the males. You see me working my ass off every day, but I get the respect. It wasn't until I start putting myself on my profile. I don't even get called bro no more. I don't even get called bro no more. When the girls talk about that, I be like, shit, I can't relate because motherfuckers know who I am. No, people know who my monster is. Okay, but yeah, like so. I guess yeah, you get what you put in. Like if you're putting now, granted, don't go and throw yourself on the profile every day and then you ain't showing your dogs either. Like show your dogs too. Nobody cares about you. But people see me working with my dogs. They see me training. They see me doing the boarding. They see me, on the ground shooting the photos. They see me, washing the dog dishes daily. They see me on the profile doing, loving on my dogs or whatever the case may be. So again, like I feel like a lot of female breeders don't get the recognition or respect that they deserve, but I also feel like they don't really. Those are the same women that don't really put themselves on the profile either. I know some of them are women because I talk to them and I know them, but if I didn't know them or I probably think they were men, on the profile. So again, I don't think it's more so you know, well, maybe it is. I don't know because there's been times I've told men that I'm a sis and they still call me bro later down the road. So I don't know if it's necessarily a respect thing or not. I don't want to say it's not, but I do think that women do have to work harder, for sure in this industry than men because they automatically think it's a male behind the screen.
Right, 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 right. Um, I also seen another post on your Instagram. It actually was a live, to be exact. It was about dog fighting and things of that nature and bringing awareness to kind of what need to be done if things like that happen. Um, you had said that the community dog community sweeps these type of issues underneath the rug. Also, why do you feel that these type of issues get swept under the rug? If you still feel that way,
Well, let me ask you: do you ever hear about people having dog fights?
no,
So it's still getting swept under the rug, right? Because
A-
they happen. You know what I'm saying? We all got
absolutely,
dogs. We all
yep,
got multiple dogs. You know what I'm saying? It happens. You got multiple person. You see it at a dog show. You got multiple personalities with people. Somebody about to fight, maybe not, but somebody might run off at the mouth or something. There's gonna be a disagreement somewhere. Okay. Now, I think like the biggest thing is like knowing your dogs. And a lot of people I feel like get a lot too many dogs at once. And they can't put the time and energy into the dogs to actually know that dog, right? Because you got to spend time with somebody to know them, right?
correct,
And I still think it's happening. I still think it's getting swept under the rug. I think it's getting swept under the rug because obviously, like, if you hear like such and such has dog fights over there, they're gonna be like, oh, those dogs are hot, or those dogs are, it's gonna mess with their sales. You know what I'm saying? So of course they want it under the radar, right? Um, because also with this breed, of American Bully, temperament is everything, right? So if you got dogs and dog fighting, regardless if you can say, oh, all dogs aren't gonna get along, but no, they should be cordial. All people aren't gonna get along, but you can be cordial at work. I cannot like the mother. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Where was I at?
no problem. You was explaining, like how all dogs not going to be necessarily cordial, together. So sometimes it might be some issues that arise with
Yes.
between two dogs or between even two people, for that
Yes.
matter.
Yes. Okay, so going back to the original question so I can make sure I'm answering the question is what?
The original question was, sweeping these issues under the rug. Do you think that the dog community is still sweeping these issues under the
Okay,
rug?
yes. And yes, I think I answered that by yes. I think they are still sweeping it under the rug just because of the marketing and everything and the temperament. That's what I think that's what I was saying. The temperament of the bully is supposed to be good. And when you see all these dogs attacking and everything, you're like, okay, well, you know, that's that's not the temperament that you want. So obviously to affect the sales. So that's why I think it's being swept under the rug.
Yeah, but also, I think that them type of issues need to be brought to the community, some awareness, so people can understand what's going on, and we can figure out, hey, this going on, this how you could correct it, instead of just keep sweeping it under the rug,
Yeah.
and then you got people getting involved with this breed of dog, and that's new to this breed, and these type of things happen, and they don't know what to do.
Hmm. I definitely
So
agree.
that
Definitely agree.
and I think any people like you just said, as far as like dogs being hot. Oh, that's a hot dog, or this, that, or the third. But all dogs, to some degree, I don't care what breed it is. You got little Chihuahuas. You got you board
If you
all
got
type of
teeth, they can
dogs.
bite.
Yeah, all dogs
I bite.
get into their little skirmishes, or I just think you got to be there to correct the behavior,
Right.
and make sure, like you said, you understand this dog is capable of this dog is capable of that, and once you understand that, you kind of know, what to do with what dogs and who to have around each other or things like that.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Understanding your dogs, knowing your dogs, knowing what they like, knowing their dislikes, knowing if they get annoyed easily, knowing if they want to play. Just even knowing body language, because even though you have a docile dog, you and all of a sudden one day that dog, oh, out of nowhere he just snapped. Well, I mean, shit, his hackles was raised. He was he didn't want to be bothered. Like, you just weren't paying attention. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's out of the blue." It's never out of the blue. You just didn't see the warning signs.
What I got a question for you. For somebody that's new to dogs, or they just recently got multiple dogs, what can be done if a dog fight breaks out in somebody's yard or in somebody's house or something like that? What are some things you think that could be done?
There are a couple things that a lot of people suggest. The main one that I would suggest, and it's foolproof, is to choke the dog out. It has to be restricted of the airway in order for it to let go. Now, with it being restricted, it's gonna let go real quick. It's not gonna be like, oh, let me just let go and I'm done. No, it's gonna be a let. It's gonna be a let go, but I'm gonna try to re-grip. So at that point, you
Right.
also have to be quick in pulling the dog off after it tries to re-grip, because if it re-grips, it's over with. You're gonna have to wait again until you're choking the dog off. Um, but yeah, that's the biggest thing, is choking the dog, restricting the airway. Some people try to say a thumb up the butt. Don't do that. Dog can redirect on you. Some people, I don't know what else do they say. Some people try to kick the dog. Some people try to punch the dog. Some people try to throw water. Like, you can do water if you're like, I mean, I guess if it's like consistent waterboarding, but not like a bucket of water. Like, if it's like a hose or something, like something that can actually drown the dog out or something, that may work. But yeah, basically you're gonna restrict the airway. If you have a collar, a leash, or anything like that, use it to just basically pull up on the dogs and choke them out.
All right. Before we get out of here, I wanted to start something new, where I asked my Instagram followers to ask you some questions.
Oh, what they got? What
So
they got for me? Oh man.
we have a few questions. So first I'm gonna start off with it's LBC Ohio on
What's
Instagram,
up,
which is
Wade?
legendary. Yeah, Wade Elliott from Legendary Bully Camp. He said, "How many times should bowls be washed Tell her it's from me too.
um, I personally wash them every single time. Every time they eat, I'm washed. After they eat, I'm washing it out. So that's once. I give my dogs fresh water probably 3 to 4 times a day. And honestly, I have so many bowls that I rotate out. So that I don't have like, like, oh, I gotta wash this bowl to put water in it. Like it's already bowls washed for me to put water in, and then I just grab the bowls up from their crates and then put them in the sink and then wash those so that way they're there for later when I get more water. So I do have extra bowls in rotation, but like I said, every time I give them fresh water, I'm giving them a fresh bowl. And so me, annoyingly, I'm probably doing dog dishes like 3 to 4 times a day. You don't have to be like me. I'm excessive, especially with the water tip. You can kind of rinse it out. It probably be fine. I would suggest, especially after feeding raw, I do wash out the water bowl after they eat when they're feeding raw because obviously the raw that they ate produces the saliva and that saliva gets in that water. So like I make sure like I'll give them fresh water after that with a clean bowl. But yeah, I'm super excessive, so at least once a day, but I do about 3 to 4 times.
All right. Next question is from Buddha Bully Kennels on Instagram. Buddha Bully
I'm
Kennels.
familiar. I'm familiar.
They said, "How many hours a week does she sleep? That girl is always on the move."
Honestly, I sleep when I can. I try to get a good 6, 7 hours of sleep when I can. If not, I'm trying to take some naps. Um, but yeah, I'm on the move 24/7. So yeah, she's definitely made that comment to me before.
And the last question is from Big Boy underscore XL Bullies on Instagram. That's Big Boy underscore XL
Okay,
Bullies.
I'm familiar.
He asked, "How do you manage the kennel with having a job? What pushes you to keep going?"
Yeah. So earlier in my interview, like I said, like dogs saved my life. So I mean, that's basically what really pushes me to keep going. Plus, I love dogs. I love animals. I've always been an animal person. Um, but how I manage, I'm a waitress. So I can pick up whenever. That's my restaurant allows that. Some restaurants don't. My shifts aren't long. I make a lot in a little bit of a time. A little bit of time. I can go in 3 4 hours, make a couple hundred. So that's basically how I manage. Like I said, like I might go into a morning shift and work like 11 to 3 or 4, or sometimes 11 to 2. Like I'm only working a few hours. And then when I get off, I'm here. And on top of that, I do have, I can't take all the credit. I do have someone here helping me, Mez. So he works as well. He works in the morning. So like he gets off around 4:35 or so. But usually I'm taking care of the dogs all morning. And then once I go to work, the dogs are here. I have three that are free roam, so they're good. Um, the other three most of the time have to be put up in the crates, otherwise just they're gonna shoot something. Um, and then he gets off. Well, he can come home for lunch, let the dogs out, stuff like that. If I'm not coming home from lunch, um, basically we work as a team. I have somebody that helps me, and we make it work. And like I said, my job's not demanding. My hours aren't demanding. If I need to pick up to get some money, I could just hurry up and do that. And like I said, I got Mez here, so if I'm not here, he's here with the dog, so it's not a big deal.
Right, right, right. Um, where can people find you at on all social media platforms?
So we have a website, mudmonsterbullies.com, two D's. And then obviously we're on Instagram. We have two Instagrams actually. We are mudmonster underscore bullies, again with two D's. And then we are also out the mud visuals. That is our photography page. I don't post as much to that page. I have a bunch of photos to post, but like I said, I'm just so busy. And then we also have like a travel page that we have to keep up with and everything like that we do. So I don't post as much on that page. But those are the social media handles that you can. We also are on Facebook, Mud Monster Bullies. Again, I don't really post as much to that. But I'm going to start. So those are the social medias that you can follow us on.
Also, before we get out of here, let the viewers know all of the different services that you offer so that they can contact you if they want to utilize any of your services.
Perfect, perfect. So first and foremost, we breed. So in the future, if you need any puppies off of one of our future litters, obviously you can hit us up for that. Before we breed, we help the community before anything. You can feel free to reach out for any questions. I'm not gonna charge you or, say, oh, you ain't spent no money with me or anything like that. Because again, I care about the dog. Um, I do whelping services, I do training, I do boarding, I do photography, I do progesterone testing, I can do ultrasound, I can do AIs, I can pull your dog, I can evaluate his sperm under a microscope. I can count his sperm if you need it counted as well. I can ship and collect it. We are going to be getting into cryopreservation, which is like the freezing of sperm. You could freeze it for 30 years if you wanted to use a stud down the road or something like that. We're going to be getting into that. I'm going to be taking a class soon. Um, Same people I took my ultrasound and reproductive class through. And then what else? Am I missing something? Photography, training.
But
I think that's it.
for boarding, if somebody wanted to do boarding, they would have to go through the Rover app, or could they just go
So
straight
they
to you?
they can go through the Rover app. They can go to my website as well and just put it inquiry or whatever as well. I also have my business phone number on our Instagram, so you can reach out via that or via the DMs. We also are going to be starting a service as well, a different service for boarding as well. I'm not going to say much now because I don't want nobody to take my idea. But we are going to be starting another part of boarding and I think a lot of people are going to like that. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to give too much, but I think a lot of people will enjoy what we're going to roll out for another aspect of our boarding.
All right, it was a pleasure, sitting down with you and having this conversation. Hopefully, we could link up again in the future, and maybe have another conversation. I want to start bringing multiple breeders on at once.
Yeah,
So if you're interested in, maybe like coming on with some other breeders and discussing other topics and things like that that got to do with dogs, I'd love to have you on.
yeah, that'd be dope.
All right, Mud Monster Bullies, Allied Bullies TV,
This
and
episode
we
of
out of here
Allied
like
Bullies
yesterday.
TV is being brought to you by K9 Super Supplements Puppy Formula. This awesome supplement contains green tripe, goat's milk, biotin, along with 6 other ingredients to promote growth and development, support immunity, digestive health, bone health, and also skin and coat health. Head on over to K9supersupplements.com today and grab yours.